When we look back at especially the last 5 years, you know, we've seen wildfire, we've seen extreme heat, we've seen wildfire again.
I'm from Lytton, which burnt down, so it's nice to come here and just let that go, right?
In the midst of all those calamities, you know, we're so dependent on these food chains and the logistics tied to getting produce from, you know, California or those other areas. What happens if that gets cut off because of a natural disaster?
We're there, we're helping the evacuees, and, you know, because we just live out as, you know, Scuppa, where I'm from, community I'm from, is just out of town. So we have a community center that's fed people three times a day up till about 2 weeks ago. Until Keith and his group put us up at the Powwow grounds, we had nothing.
We've gone through the COVID pandemic, and you know, through all of these things, we have to be resilient.
The problem is our food system is broken. We rely on the multinationals to feed us. Kids growing up think potatoes come from the store and peas. They don't realize they come from the garden. So we have to take control back of our growing food, harvesting food, whether it be traditional ways of harvesting, and for Indigenous populations, the problem has been colonization, residential schools. There's been so much distance between how your food is grown, and we need to get that back. We need to work with communities and get control back of the food supply and work with the youth with the climate change. We may not even have pollinators. If we don't make a stand and take some action, pollinators, our plants, our soil, our waters, food is medicine. And so if you think of it that way, if we lose our food, then where do we go? It's the ultimate, food, water. We need to really protect that.
World destruction. That's it, plain and simple, world destruction. If you can't move, if bridges burn down, if all the forest is gone and stuff like that, if all our insects are not here and stuff like that to pollinate and everything like that, we cannot survive.
If you look at the stores, it's a lot of the food is imported. Where you give it 60, 70 years ago, we probably grew everything.
It's impossible to ignore the climate crisis that's manifesting in large-scale forest fires. The pandemic also, I think, showed people how fragile our food systems are. And so when we have food systems that are disrupted, we realize that the long sort of global supply chains can leave us very vulnerable in terms of being able to feed ourselves.
We're going to see really accelerating changes in our community due to the impacts of climate change. And so recognizing that we need to be able to be resilient and responsive in the face of wildfires, pandemics, fragile global supply chains, really means that, you know, we actually need to make an investment as a community in ensuring that our local supply chains are going to be resilient.
The training people is a key for the future of the farming here. And also the new generation, because the old-timers will disappear very soon. And if nobody replaces us, there will not be more farming here. We will depend of everything coming from other places in which they are more expensive, and with the climate changes that we have, create more problems.
Go to Save On Foods and take out all the imported product that's not from the Nicola Valley, or let's say BC, because those shelves will be almost empty. It's all imported.
There's a difference between growing it yourself or doing that hunting and doing the processing to get it in that same package that you buy from Safeway. When you do that yourself and you learn to do that properly, that's what brings back tradition. That's what brings back pride. And it's part of our culture. It's the way our ancestors lived. You know, it's just, that's part of what it means to be First Nation.
That's a question I think we all have to ask ourselves. How can we look after ourselves if indeed something bad happens?
When we look at gardening and when we look at food sovereignty, it's a bridge. It builds and it connects the different worlds, and it's safe. I think when you're a little child and you're out there playing in the dirt and you're playing in the mud and you're climbing trees, or you get the magnificent smell and the aroma of wild roses and different things like this, it awakens that part of you and it brings you to a place of just wonder, and you just love it. And it's a connection to Mother Earth. And when that happens, when things start blooming, then we get all the different insects and different things like that. I love butterflies, I love bees, I love all these things. So I want the kids to see it and to feel it how I do. I want to portray that. I like to bring that world alive.
We've got a good chance to make it not look so bleak. I think everybody right now has a huge chance, whether it's about global warming or overfishing in the oceans by other countries before the salmon even come up the Fraser River. You know, how do we stop that? How do we prevent that? And it's just, I think it's doing more of this stuff. It's more, you know, a lot of people say talk is cheap, and, you know, action speaks volumes. You know, we have to talk about it, and we have to have that action. We can do our best efforts to reduce our carbon footprint by, you know, just planting things and growing things, because people don't realize how much energy these big chicken farmers that raise 2 million chickens use, or the big feedstocks that have 10,000 cows, like how much energy it takes to run those things. So it's about, you know, looking at it on a smaller scale, looking at it at the community level, because we're not trying to feed the country. We're just trying to feed our families and our own community. So I think with that smaller footprint, you know, we can start, you know, being a small part of sustaining the world as it is.
Food security is important because it's the basis of both human health, economic health, environmental health. The way that we eat has such a large impact on how we live and how we allow other species to live. And so paying close attention to sustainable regenerative food systems, I think, is really key in terms of facing some of the challenges that we are in this time.
Suddenly, because of COVID, forest fires, all those things, they haven't had that opportunity. So we've given them a little bit of a venue, offering our people an opportunity to do those things. It's about getting together and helping each other. Those are the values that we talk about as Indigenous people, and it was all about that vision for being greater than just, you know, individual communities. We're pulling together and helping each other, especially in times of need.
As of COVID, everything was shut down, but it means a lot to us to get out there and move our products, a place to move our products for everybody that's here.
It's important because it puts food on your table. It's just that little extra that everybody needs.
I heard about these peoples and these other big industries like LA, where it's just smog when it gets to be bad, smoky weather out here. And I think about it and I'm like, oh, these big places live like this every day. They are walking around with masks like it's normal to them. They go out and they put a mask on and pay for that little bit of fresh oxygen. I think that if we keep on working together with peoples and starting with children, because when I watch TV, I see how big commercials are, that children influence their parents to buy vehicles. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is really something that everybody needs to keep on building and building on, because when you work with children, they're letting you know what is comfortable for them.
I'm very proud that we hold and came up with the name of Kweseltken. And it was actually my chairperson, Keith Matthew, and he said, George, I got a perfect name for the market.
Kweseltken market means all my relations. And when we're praying, we end our prayers with all my relations, which means all my people are behind me, you know? So we try to remember those things because they're important to us as Indigenous people. We thought that our communities needed a place to sell their stuff, as well as our producers. For some of them, it saved them because COVID was forcing us into isolation, and they didn't have the opportunity to get out to other markets and sell their goods and services. So we provided them an outlet, and it was a lifeline for some of them.
You know, we always say we're all related. And, you know, I'm not just saying this, but, you know, that's what I feel about everybody in the region, in the province. Like, we're either all, you know, British Columbians or all Canadians. And, you know, so one way or another, we're connected. If it's not through blood, it's through geography, it's through environment, it's through a disaster. We're all connected. We got to live through these things in the good times and the bad. So, you know, in a way, Kweseltken has a widespread meaning that we're all in this together.
I met George at the Economic Unity Conference, and he had been talking about his farming and his food production, and so I was really interested in getting more involved. And so George and I teamed up, and we submitted a proposal to do an Indigenous agriculture situation assessment. So we interviewed 12 Indigenous farmers in the CIFN service area, and from that we made some key recommendations about how we could enhance the sort of cultural livelihood and viability of Indigenous farmers in this region. And so that's part of where the Kweseltken Kitchen project came from, and the Kweseltken market as well.
I think I was inspired after the 2017. You know, so many of our people, you know, from the Shuswap to the Caribou Chilcotin, and actually all over the interior, were really impacted by the fires, and a lot of issues like food security and being able to access, you know, their own food sources. You know, really inspired me to look at these different projects and how we could add value to that. The mandate of CIFN, we support small and medium-sized business. And we wanted to make sure that if there were small farmers or artisans, folks like that, we wanted to support them. And this is a way that we can with the Kweseltken project.
Well, we knew right from the start of securing funding for the Food Hub that we wanted to partner with CIFN on the Kweseltken Kitchen, because we know that one of the biggest barriers that entrepreneurs face is that access to the shared infrastructure, the commercial kitchen facilities. But we also know that in order for our project to be truly inclusive, the ability to take that infrastructure in a mobile trailer out to rural Indigenous communities and to provide them that access to processing facilities, equipment. The trailer is equipped with smokers, dehydrators, canners. The ability to access that infrastructure right in their home community is a huge asset, and something that we knew right away that we wanted to invest in.
Because it is a certified kitchen, but a kitchen like that would be all heavy-duty equipment, you know, and to be able to withstand a bigger impact of preparing, you know, meals for 150 people.
This is the Kweseltken Kitchen. It's a mobile unit that we can take to different communities or bring to a spot where a farm is harvesting food. It's more than just a food truck, it's more of a preserving truck. So we got the dehydrators on board right now. We're making fruit leather with strawberries. We could do salmon, we could do jerky. I've done lots of jerky that we have packs in there. We do apricots. It's an all around, you know, trying to preserve everybody's foods and to help teach and share and learn with different schools and youth and just to share the message that, you know, there's a lot of waste product that gets discarded. We do meat cutting on here too, so we're fully equipped to do sausage making, our butchery. So if people have farm animals like pigs or cows, our deer, our hunting camps, fishing camps, we can bring the truck there to actually preserve. And I can come there with the unit and share the knowledge and help preserve the foods too. Yeah. So canning meats and drying meats and just sharing with the youth, and then having elders there sharing their knowledge with me and the youth. It brings us all together, different families, different groups of people. It's all learning, and it's so healthy. This is more modern day stuff that we have on board that makes it a little bit easier. But there is traditional ways of just cold smoking and on an open fire. So yeah, there is a lot more, you know, going back to grassroots technology. You know, we're not here to make a whole bunch of money, we're just here to share knowledge. And I think that's more important than any money in the world, is having people leave with the knowledge of knowing how to can properly without having any illnesses or whatnot, but like doing things in a manner where it's safe. We do what we can, and with one truck, it's, you know, everybody wants you everywhere at once. And that's just the way it happens. So, you know, it's just like a dream job, really, to come to work and make jams and, you know, preserve foods and do the things that I love to do and share the knowledge that I was handed down with the meat cutting side of it.
I'd like us to learn how to skin animals and clean animals and butcher animals and harvest food and preserve food, dry food, put them in root cellars. Everything. I want that more than anything.
It's a small goal to try to strive for, but it's an obtainable one. And I think there's enough people out there with the interest of food security and food policy that, you know, we got enough land here. We just need more people. Let's participate, and I think that would be the hugest thing. You know, it's that learning curve. Learn what's in our food, where it comes from, and learn what's in your food, where it comes from, if we did it ourselves. And if we all did that and we thought about this every day when we put food on our dinner tables, I think it would just change everything. We're working with Kamloops Food Policy Council, the Provincial Food Hub Committee, you know, Ministry of Agriculture, and all of these groups are coming together. We have community gardens, we have schools that have their gardens developed. You know, it's like a different time now. And that's what I'm happy about. Like, you know, it took a lot of years, the last couple of decades, to kind of prepare for what we're doing today. And that goes for so many of us. You know, former leaders, and now we're leading in a different way. We're not elected, you know, we're not politicians or anything. We're just hardworking people who really care. And I'm so proud that partners within the community, like the Kamloops Food Policy Council or Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association, you know, and a whole community, City of Kamloops, like everybody working together to know that the time is now. Let's start working together, let's make these things happen. And with the funding that's available, the grants we're accessing, it is possible. If we don't make substantial changes, we already talked about global warming and you know, those big environmental impacts. But the biggest thing is us individually. You know, there's diabetes. If we keep eating what we eat and going to McDonald's and buying processed foods from the stores, like in bags off the shelves, like the diabetes, the cancer, it's like there's just so many afflictions that is going to just keep harming our people. So if we don't get back and find that value of our traditional medicines, what we can grow, what we can hunt and process ourselves, you know, I think all of us, as British Columbians, as First Nation people, as Indigenous, if we don't change our ways just even a bit to really support agriculture, to really support food policy and food security and learn more, I think the future could be very devastating and maybe shorten lifespans, and how many operations or how many medications are you on? How do we get away from that? And I think it's just about what we do personally. Come out and be a part of it. First Nation people, we've been crossing the river or getting off the reserve and being part of mainstream British Columbia for so long. I always tell people right here, our situation, the only thing that separates the Indigenous or the First Nation and non-First Nation is the South and North Thompson. This is about our whole community as a region. And that includes the city of Kamloops, Tk'emlúps, Secwépemc, and all the surrounding areas of our TNRD. We just got to be open. And that's what the Kweseltken market's about. It's open to everybody. And last year, just thinking about what we had, about 65% First Nation Indigenous vendors compared to 35% non. That's what it's about. It's about coming together as people, no matter what your race, your background, your beliefs are. Let's just get together and put products on the table. Let's sell what we love to do, whether you're making your hand drums or your beaded gloves or you're growing your vegetables or you're processing your meats and making your jams. It's just coming together as one. That's one thing that, I think really brings people together. We always talk about food, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, that's what brings your family together. So if we think about it in that context, that's what's going to bring our people together.